They are on. Yeah, I can actually fact you. Let's give some facts. Bezalel Smotrich has said very clearly the hostages are not the priority.
You're not the representative of
the settlements
fact,
minister.
Mehdi Hasan.
Can I speak without being interrupted?
Let him speak, Jonathan.
Jonathan,
he
you had a chance for your propaganda. I didn't interrupt you. I will interrupt you for the next 20 minutes.
Jonathan, he allowed you to speak without interruption. Let Mehdi do the same.
Fine.
You could come back in and lie again in a moment. I'll give the facts to the viewers. The finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, said very clearly that the hostages are not the priority. Ben-Gvir has said a similar line. Orit Struk, the settlements minister, said recently, we have to go into every area, even if the hostages die, even if they're unsafe, we have to do it. They have made that very clear. Gallant, the former defense minister, said Netanyahu was sacrificing the hostages.
In this video, we are diving into a heated exchange where journalist Mehdi Hasan puts a former Israeli military spokesperson on the spot. You'll see how Hasan, with a calm but unwavering approach, challenges the official story on some of the toughest topics of the war, like the bombing of civilians and the blockade on Gaza. He does not get very loud or emotional, but instead he uses cold, hard facts. Every time the spokesperson tries to change the subject or twist the truth, Hasan hits back with another piece of solid evidence, leaving him completely cornered. It's a pretty fascinating look at how a journalist can cut through the noise with nothing but the truth.
The hostages' families went to the homes of the Israeli cabinet just 9 days ago. They protested outside the government's homes and said, you are sacrificing our children on the altar of eternal war. Those are the words of the hostages' families, not the former IDF spokesman, Piers, who you brought on to lie on behalf of the Israeli military. So many lies he told there in that statement that he just gave this long rant. He doesn't want me to speak now, obviously, because the fact checks will hurt him. Again and again, they have said the hostages are not the priority. And this idea of fringe figures, as you said, Piers, Bezalel Smotrich is the finance minister. He said in May of this year, we are disassembling Gaza. We are turning it into piles of rubble. We are destroying the Gaza Strip. We are there to conquer, cleanse, and remain. Those are the words of Smotrich. By the way, on the same day, Piers, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, put out a tweet saying, Bezalel, you have spoken the truth. You show leadership. So this is the entire government. It's not just the entire government. It's the country. A majority of Israelis say they want Palestinians expelled from the Gaza Strip, according to every poll. This is not a fringe view. This is the Israeli government. This is Israeli society. And for Jonathan to say, I'm in the Hamas camp. Come on, Jonathan, get some new lines. I'm not in the Hamas camp. I've never defended Hamas on this show once. Piers knows that. Although you come on this show to defend an Israeli military you were part of and spokesman for. You were part of an Israeli military that's being investigated at the ICJ for genocide. You're part of an Israeli military that was indicted at the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity. You're part of an Israeli military that the International Association of Genocide Scholars have said is a genocide. You're part of a military. You're part of a military that's being investigated by international courts. You're part of a military.
Well, I think, okay, let me jump in.
No, hold on, I'm finishing my point, Piers.
Jonathan, let him finish and I'll come to you.
You're part of a military that has been investigated for sexual violence and rape against Palestinians. Did that happen on your watch? Did you sign off on what the UN says is sexual and gender-based violence?
Let me ask Jonathan a question. Okay, Jonathan.
A military that bombed a hospital last week, Jonathan.
Okay,
your military bombed a hospital.
Let me ask Jonathan an IDF question.
Bombed a hospital.
Let me ask Jonathan.
Only a sociopath would defend that.
Let me ask Jonathan a question, which is, as a former IDF man and spokesman, it is reported that behind the closed-door overnight meeting, IDF's Chief of Staff, Major General Ayal Zamir, vehemently opposed a Gaza City takeover, which he has repeatedly warned would endanger the lives of his soldiers and the remaining hostages held by Hamas. That was the Times of Israel reporting that. Are you not concerned as a former IDF man that the guy who's the Chief of Staff of the IDF right now thinks this is a disastrous policy in the making?
Yeah, so this is the first time in the program that we're actually talking something that's grounded somewhere close to facts, not all of the nonsense that Mehdi was spewing out. And by the way, I'll answer the question, Piers, but by the way, Mehdi,
I quoted Smotrich. Deal with the Smotrich quote.
No, you've been misrepresenting, cherry-picking.
No, don't talk over each other, Mehdi. Let Jonathan
respond. Cherry-picking anything.
Let him answer my question.
We conquer, cleanse, and remain in Gaza. No, that's the factual quote.
All right, please let him answer my question.
Let's get one thing straight here. The words of Israel's government leaders are not accidental slip-ups. When Finance Minister Smotrich said that they would dissemble Gaza, conquer, cleanse, and remain, and Prime Minister Netanyahu praised him for it, they were laying out their official plan. This view isn't representative of just a few extreme politicians. It's pretty much what's driving the government. In fact, polls inside Israel show that over 60% of Israelis support getting rid of Palestinians from Gaza for good. It's a widely held view, not a fringe one. This is also why international organizations are taking legal action. The International Court of Justice has said that there is a good chance Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and the International Criminal Court is investigating its leaders for war crimes. These are serious accusations from major global bodies like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, not just from critics. Even Israel's own top military brass, as reported by the Times of Israel, has shown concern, openly opposing a full takeover of Gaza because of the danger it would put their own soldiers and the hostages in.
I'll answer the question. So, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir is an excellent officer. He's the chief of staff of the IDF, and he's been leading the IDF with quite significant successes against Hezbollah, against the Iranians, and he is leading the IDF in our war, our very just war against Hamas. I'm very happy that there's a debate and that's an ongoing discussion between the military echelon and the democratically elected echelon in Israel. I'm not so happy that it's out in the open, but I am aware that it's happening. And I would say that what I read of the reported statements, which I have from pretty reliable sources they're more or less accurate, maybe not really the tone and the intensity, but a lot of it is accurate. What I read is that the military, very correctly, is asking of the government, what is the end state here? And government, please tell me what you intend for things to happen once we actually go in and fight Hamas and kill them in their tunnels and take out the remaining parts of the leadership and actually get the military part of the job done. And I think that's a very good point made by the IDF, because that is clarity that is needed. And until that is said and stipulated by the government, I think that it's good that the IDF, as a military in a democracy, is telling the elected democratic leadership that, well, I will execute the orders that you give me. Here are the consequences, and I wish for you to tell me what the desired strategic end state is. And that's exactly what a military is supposed to do in combat. And I think that now the ball is in the court of the government, where they will have to stipulate clearly and to a certain extent persuade the military and everybody serving.
Well, again, it's been reported.
What exactly the end goal is.
All right, it's been reported again by the Times of Israel that during this 6-hour Israeli Security Cabinet hearing last night, that Netanyahu rejected the general's push to hold a vote over the current ceasefire deal on the table, which could see half of living hostages freed and lay the groundwork for a permanent end to the war. Now, Mehdi, what is also emerging is that there is a belief by Netanyahu that the reason he is being so gung-ho about continuing with this is that President Trump has urged him to finish the war in Gaza with full force. What should we read into that?
Yeah, I think we should read into that Donald Trump is 100% behind Netanyahu, as some of us warned he would be. I think there were some people who thought that there would be some daylight between Trump and Netanyahu, that Trump would somehow be better on Gaza than Biden and Harris were. And that's, as I've told you before, Piers, your pal Donald is full on the ethnic cleansing, the ridiculous Gaza Riviera plan, allegedly involving Tony Blair and Jared Kushner at the White House, outrageous open plans for ethnic cleansing, all signed off on by Donald Trump, who said earlier this year that Palestinians will have to leave Gaza and not come back, which is the definition of ethnic cleansing. That is what Israel and the American government are planning and cooking up for the people of Gaza. It's why the world has now turned belatedly against Israel and on this genocide, because it's so brazen what they're doing in terms of the man-made famine, in terms of the ethnic cleansing, all of this stuff. And, you know, the hostage canard keeps being put forward. Jonathan said earlier, oh, it's a partial deal. Yeah. That's what the Israelis wanted. The great irony is Hamas wanted a permanent deal, all the hostages for an end to the war. Netanyahu said no, partial deal. Hamas agreed to that too, so they keep moving the goalposts because he doesn't want to end the war, Piers. Matthew Miller, Biden's former State Department spokesman, said recently that when he spoke to Netanyahu last year, Netanyahu said openly, we're going to be fighting for decades.
What's happening in Gaza is way more than just war. It's a policy of ethnic cleansing, and it's backed by very powerful people. Prime Minister Netanyahu has publicly supported ministers who talked about cleansing Gaza and preventing Palestinians from ever coming back. Even Donald Trump has gotten in on it, saying Palestinians should leave Gaza and not come back, which is the very definition of ethnic cleansing. It's why groups like Amnesty International have accused Israel of apartheid and a forced population transfer. The handling of the hostage situation also tells a different story than the one that we've heard. Reports suggest that Hamas was willing to release all hostages in exchange for a permanent ceasefire, but Netanyahu turned it down, even as hostage families begged him to accept. Why? Because a permanent ceasefire would stop his political goal of a long, drawn-out conflict. He's reportedly told U.S. officials he expects the fighting to continue for years, even decades. And to make matters worse, UN and World Food Program reports confirm that Israel's blockade has created a man-made famine, with children literally starving to death. This is a deliberate tactic. It's not just a side effect of the war.
He wants this war to continue for his own reasons, for the ideological reasons of his cabinet allies. And the military, the Israeli military has now come to its senses saying, this is not helping. This is the same Israeli military that has committed multiple war crimes. I mean, Jonathan talked earlier about, what the purpose of combat is. He said he was a proud IDF man. He's proudly part of a military that last week bombed a hospital not once, but twice. A double tap strike, according to CNN, triple tap strike, killing emergency responders, journalists, aid workers in front of our eyes. That is his glorious military. It's an Israeli military which, according to Dr. Nick Maynard, Piers, who you know, British doctor, I interviewed him last month. He said he treated Palestinian teenagers in his hospital in Gaza over the summer who were shot in the testicles, multiple children shot in the testicles by Jonathan's military, the same military that killed 15 paramedics in April,
they were shot
and then
by
just buried them
Hamas,
with their ambulances in the sand. They were buried in the sand by the Israeli military in April. They lied, the Israelis. They said, the lights were off. We didn't know who they were. Hamas were firing. Turned out all to be a lie. You know what the Israelis did, Piers? They fired the deputy commander. That's it. Nobody went to prison. No one was charged. They murdered 15 people. That's the military that Jonathan's come to defend. The most immoral military right now in the world that is bombing hospitals in front of our eyes.
Jonathan?
Yeah, it's it's various levels of ridiculous. But listen, Mehdi, there's been a job opening. Israel finally got rid of Abu Ubaidah, a very prolific and well-to-do Hamas
You've really got to get better with your Hamas propaganda. You're a
your
racist,
language, small man.
genocidal, war criminal.
Man.
You support
Mind
war
your
criminals.
Language,
Well, you're trying to put a target on me? Are you and Elon Levy trying to put a target on me? Are you trying to put a target on me? You keep saying I'm Hamas, and you support killing Hamas.
You've done it
so
with Elon, and it won't work with me, little Mehdi. Little Mehdi,
if your
you've done that
argument is
shtick
that
with
any brown
Elon, it
Muslim
doesn't impress
is Hamas,
me. But I'm telling
are you
you
trying
is
to put
that
a target
if you
on me?
improve your Arabic just a bit,
you keep saying I'm Hamas based on
if
nothing.
you improve your Arabic just a bit, I think you are well on track to become a very prolific spokesperson for
your
Hamas.
Troops engaged in sexual violence against Palestinian women.
Abu Ubaidah.
You're being investigated in the International Criminal Court.
When you dig into the facts, you see a pattern of behavior that goes beyond the chaos of war. Independent investigations from organizations like Amnesty International and the UN have documented a horrifying tactic: double tap and triple tap strikes. This is when Israel army bombs a location, waits for medics and journalists to arrive, and then bombs it again to kill them. This is a clear war crime. We've also seen heartbreaking evidence from Doctors Without Borders, which has treated dozens of children who were shot in the groin, a sign of deliberate, punitive targeting, not random crossfire. But what happens when these crimes are exposed? Almost nothing. When IDF soldiers killed 15 paramedics and buried them with their ambulance, a deputy commander was simply dismissed. No prison time, no real justice. This total and complete lack of accountability is a huge reason why the Israeli military is now being investigated for war crimes at the International Criminal Court and for genocide at the International Court of Justice. These are legal cases that are based on a mountain of evidence.